What's up guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg with a pile of new tablets from Samsung, the Galaxy Tab 3 series. So we got a 7-incher, an 8-incher, and a 10-incher. So the 7-incher starts off at $199. The 8-incher is $299, 10-incher is $399. So you get a wide variety of sizes and price points to fit everybody's needs. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the 7-incher. Now, all of these tablets are available in two colors, white or brown. I went with white in this case. So at $199, you get a fairly low-spec 7-inch tablet. This kind of competes with things like the Nexus 7 or the Amazon Kindle Fire, and prices may come down over time. It's available in 8 or 16 gig capacities, and there's actually a version with cellular data and cellular voice complete with an earpiece. But this is just the Wi-Fi only version and the 8 gig, so that gets us the cheapest version. So again, 7-inch screen with a fairly unimpressive WSVGA resolution 1024 by 600. That gets a pixel density of 170 ppi. By comparison, the Nexus 7 gives you a pixel density of 216. So we have a a dual core 1.2 gigahertz processor, fairly low spec there, 1 gig of RAM. We have a 3 megapixel camera capable of recording video at 720p. We also have a 1.3 megapixel front-facing camera. We have Android in this case, and this is Android 4.1, so we don't have Android 4.2, so we're running older software. The other tablets do get the latest version. We have our 4,000 milliamp hour battery, and we do have full 1080p playback, although you can't take advantage of it on this lower resolution screen. Alright, so let's go ahead and crack this open. So we have a little tab here to cut. And to pop off the lid here. We get a little thumb port here to pull out the tray. So there is our kind of dusty Galaxy Tab 3. So you can see we have this recycled packaging, which is, again, very similar to all the other Samsung products for 2013, like the Galaxy S4. Alright, so we're going to have to tilt this over to dump it out here. So there is our 7-inch tablet, very glossy white. You see our IR blaster. But before we get too excited, let's put this aside and take a look at the contents here. Just pop this out. Little packet here. So we have our micro USB charging cable, bright white, just like the tablet. We have another micro USB charging wall adapter. And we have our literature pack, so Galaxy Tab 3. So it looks like it's available in multiple languages here. Samsung Watch On, so this is the app that works with the IR blaster I just pointed out here. We also have Galaxy Tab 3 accessory guide, so of course you can buy lots of accessories including covers. Now we have a little flyer here for Galaxy perks. Owning the Galaxy has its rewards, so you can register that. And Galaxy Tab 3 Quick Start Guide tells us a little bit about using the Galaxy Tab. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the Tab 3 tablet. So 7-inch WSVGA LCD screen, 1.2 gigahertz dual-core processor, Android OS, and the Watch On app. So the Watch On app basically turns this into your remote control for your home theater equipment. We also have our micro SD card slot here, which you can see right here highlighted on the packaging. So let's go ahead and start peeling off this plastic. There we go. Now let's get to the front. Actually, there's another piece of plastic here around the camera. There you go. And onto the front, we get a little handy dandy tab here to lift up. So there you go. Put that aside. Let's see if we have any other plastic along the side. Looks like we do, so let's go ahead and peel that off. Alright, so with the plastic removed, we can take a close look at the hardware. So we have that 1.3 megapixel front-facing camera next to that ambient light sensor. Samsung branding. At the bottom, we'll find our home button, as well as our backlit menu and back button. So as you can see, these are always visible, so they are not only visible if they're backlit, so that's kind of nice. Along the side, you'll find another microphone. You'll find your sleep, wake, and power button, as well as your volume rocker. Down here, covering by my thumb, is the IR blaster. On the bottom, we'll find a set of dual speakers, so stereo speakers, another microphone, micro USB charging port. Along the other side, we'll just find this micro SD card slot hidden by this door. Again, this supports 64 gig cards. Along the top, we'll find our headphone jack. Along the bottom, we'll find that 3 megapixel autofocusing camera capable of recording video only at 720p. Now, on the fairly minor note here, the design is pretty similar to the Galaxy S4. So you have this plastic sort of metal simulated finish along the side. Along the back, we have this very glossy back panel. It does not have that grid sort of pattern like you get with the Galaxy S4. It's just a simple, clear, white finish. All right, so let's go ahead and boot this up for the first time. We got a little Samsung boot animation, which is the older animation, so we probably can tell here that this is not running the latest version of TouchWiz. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at the user interface. I've already logged into my device, so I've logged into Google, transferred my Google account information, but this is pretty much the stock experience. This is what you would get when you first boot up your device. So here's our lock screen. Now this is running Android 4.1.2, and just to confirm that, let me go to our drop-down menu here, go to Settings, go to About Device, there you go, Android 4.1.2. Go back to the lock screen. As you can see here, we have these shortcuts at the bottom right here. So we can swipe up to launch those apps. Now you can see it's kind of slow to respond. So for example, if I lock the device, press the lock button, there you go, a little sluggish there. So again, you can launch any of these apps right from the lock screen. Now this isn't running the latest version of TouchWiz or the latest version of Android 4.2, which gives you lock screen widgets. So unfortunately, you don't get that capability. So anywhere you touch on the screen, swipe up and it unlocks it for you. You have your drop-down menu here, complete with your familiar Samsung toggles, Wi-Fi, GPS sound, screen rotation, Bluetooth, power saving mode, blocking mode. Blocking mode is particularly useful. Basically, it turns off notifications. Blocking mode you can also change under settings. We'll take a look at that. We have driving mode, which enhances the display for driving conditions, specifically for using this as a navigation device. So here we have our notifications. So we have expandable notifications here. We can take a look at some of our email notifications here, and we can also swipe them out of the way. We also have Google Now here, appearing here. So we have Google Now integrated in this as well. Now we also have S Voice. In order to activate S Voice, just double tap the home button. What's the weather like in San Francisco?
Here is the weather for San Francisco, California.
All right, so if I want to get to Google Now instead of S Voice, I just tap and hold the menu button. What's the weather like in San Francisco?
It's 14 degrees and partly cloudy in San Francisco.
Well, it looks like I have this configured for the UK voice, so we're going to have to fix that in settings later, but you get the idea. S Voice or Google Now is available on this device, just like a lot of other Samsung devices. Going to our apps, you can see some of the apps they've included, including all the Google apps. Polaris Office has the Office suites. We have Voice Search, which is Google Voice Search. Watch On and the Peel Smart Remote apps are apps that work with that IR blaster to control your AV equipment. World Clock, we have the Hangouts app. Again, all the standard Google apps. The video player, I only have a short video clip in here, but the video player does have the pop-out feature, so you can play a video right here. You can pop it out, and you continue watching it in the background, resize it, that sort of thing, and there you go. It's only a few seconds, so that's why it closed. Anyway, if you look at the standard home screens, you can see they've given us some widgets, they've given us some apps. You can modify this just by pinching out on them. You can change which one is your home screen. Or you can add home screens to add more apps. So for example, I have these standard apps. I have the Flipboard. I don't really want the Flipboard widget here. So if I tap and hold on it, I can go up to remove it. Takes it out of the way. So there you go. Also, let's see, we have the Chrome browser here. We have Samsung Link, calculator, alarm clock. We have the chat on multi-platform, cross-platform chat app. So it's not using SMS in this case, it's using chat on, which is basically data connections instead of the standard messaging app. That's independent. We have our email app, Gmail app, Game Hub, which is Samsung's gaming hub or store for syncing games, scores and that sort of thing, as well as buying games. We have Group Play, the Help Manual. You have a basically a note app, the Memo app. Google Plus Messenger, Internet Browser, the Gallery app, downloads, the camera, My Files, navigation. So we have full navigation, Google navigation. Yes, so we have lots of great apps from Google as well as Samsung. Now I can also change any of these apps. So for example, I don't want the standard browser, I want Chrome. So if I go to the app drawer, I can pick up Chrome and drop it right there. Now if you want to create a folder for any of these apps, you have to tap and hold on any one of them, go up to Create Folder, and you can name it. So let's say Test, because I don't really want to create a folder right now. And then we're going to drop another app into the folder. So there you go. You can also tap on this, drag it out. There you go. Now you can also quickly slide between the home screen pages, so you can either tap on any one of them or use this little slider mechanism. If you go to the app drawer, works the same, little slider. You can also pinch out to see all of the pages. Not a whole lot of apps here yet, so once you start adding your apps, you do get multiple pages. You can also go to your widgets, do the same thing. Slide out, there's lots of widgets, so you can see it's kind of sluggish, pretty herky-jerky there. So not the greatest performance. You can also go here to see all your downloaded apps, which I haven't done yet. So there you go, pretty familiar interface. It's just not operating as smoothly as I would like to see. You also see we have this little Google widget here, which you can remove if you wish, but this will also get you to Google now. What's the weather like tomorrow in San Francisco?
Tomorrow's forecast for San Francisco is 20 degrees and partly cloudy.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at these Android controls here. So we have the home button, so if you press it, it takes you to the home screen. If you long press it, takes you to your app switcher, or your recent apps. So you can see the recent apps here, which you can swipe out of the way to close them or tap on them to get to them. You can also close them all by hitting this in the lower right. You can also go to Google Now right from this window as well. It takes you to Google Now. Let's get back there and show you the task manager. So this is your task manager. So from here, you can manage what's downloaded on your system. You see your RAM manager here, so I'm running kind of thin right now. Your storage capacity, see how much storage you have left. So you can see how much storage I have left after that 8 gigs. So only 5.29 gigs are available to me after Samsung has taken its cut. Now if we bring down our settings here, go to your settings, you have lots of options here. Not as many as you get with higher spec tablets from Samsung, but you have your toggle for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. You can also tap on these to get to your Bluetooth settings. You can see your data usage manager, go to more settings. We have your blocking mode, which I find particularly useful. So if you turn on blocking mode, it turns off notifications. You can also set a specific time for whether you want it to always be on or turned on at a certain time. So right now it's set for 9 p.m. or 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. so during the night period. You see your display options, storage, power saving modes. You can see some of the controls here. So if you want to activate power saving mode, you have granular controls over how that behaves. So you have CPU power saving, which you can toggle off, and screen power saving, which you can also toggle off or on. Location services, the lock screen. So this is where you control some of your lock screen options. So you go to your lock screen there. So this is where you can turn on things like your shortcuts. So if I go to my shortcuts, I can also modify them. So for example, I don't want the standard browser here. Drop that to delete, go to add, and let's get to Chrome here. So there we go. You can also add chat on or any apps you want. Now you also have your language and input, so if you want to change it to English United States or English the UK, Espanol, Francais, there you go. You have your Dropbox settings. So Dropbox is integrated here automatically out of the box. So all you have to do is log into your Dropbox account or create an account when you set it up for the first time. Accessories, so you can change how this device interacts with accessories, date and time, accessibility, developer options, and about this device. So there you go. Now, of course, this is a tablet, so it works in landscape or portrait mode, no matter what you're doing. So if you go to the apps drawer in landscape mode, or if you go to the app switcher, same story here. Now taking a look at the camera, this is running the older version of TouchWiz, so you don't get the new camera mode you see with the Galaxy S4 or the Note 8.0. So you can see we have our settings, quick settings along the side, so you have things like your exposure value, which you can control manually, your timer, your cameras, your filters here, so we do have filters you can pick from. You can also go to settings to get to more options. It's kind of slow there, but there you go. You can also quickly load or switch between camera mode or video mode by tapping this toggle here. So there is video mode, so you can record video. Now when you record video in this case with this camera, you can't shoot photos, but you can pause it. You can pause it, resume, stop. Now the camera takes fairly mediocre stills, and it does not appear to have autofocusing like I indicated earlier. I thought it did. So if you tap anywhere on the screen, nothing happens. It's basically fixed focus, so it's kind of infinity focus. So it doesn't really have that depth of field like you get with a lot of cameras. Now it does support auto exposure, so for example, if I tilt the camera up here to this black backdrop, it does try to compensate for that, so we do have that feature. Now taking a look at the standard Samsung keyboard here on the right, we have our clipboard, so if we saved anything to the clipboard, they would appear here, and you can post them in your document. You can also change some of the keyboard settings here. Tapping and holding this will bring up your floating keyboard. So you'll get this little tab up here above the keyboard. This allows you to move it around. This is particularly good for landscape mode. So if you're in landscape mode and you want to use your thumb to type, that's one way of getting to that. And if we go to the unified keyboard here, you can see, there we go, we get a full width keyboard. Unfortunately, there isn't a split keyboard in this version. Now we also have voice typing. Hello, this is Mike from Rochester Hills, Michigan. We also can enable continuous input, so if we tap and hold this, go to settings and enable continuous input. So now we get a swipe-like keyboard, so this is a test. there you go, works pretty well. Now in terms of speaker quality, it's not the best in the world. We have these two very small speakers. They sound kind of tinny, not a lot of bass, and they're not particularly loud, but because we have these two speakers here, it's hard to cover them up. So for example, if I'm holding the tablet like this, I'm covering up one speaker, it doesn't mute it, but if I cover up both speakers, it completely mutes it. So there you go. I think that's really the purpose of those dual speakers.
Alright, so there we go. There is our stock.
Now in terms of screen quality, it's actually pretty good. So it's not a really sharp display, but the screen is fairly bright with pretty vivid colors, nice off-axis viewing, and the screen is pretty close to the glass, so there's not a lot of refraction. But if you go to the full The Verge website, you can see even the smallest text is fairly readable. It's a little pixelated, but it's not too bad. So like all Samsung devices, even if the resolution isn't great, the quality of the LCD is very good. Everything looks bright and vivid and colorful with nice contrast, and the whites are fairly bright. I've definitely seen brighter LCD displays, but Samsung has done a fairly good job here. Now in terms of our benchmark scores, using the Antutu benchmark, you can see we score barely 7,000. Now by contrast, the GS4 scores 24,000. So 7,000 versus 25,000 for the GS4. So a big difference there in terms of system performance. Now the similarly priced Nexus 7 also scores considerably better here than the Tab 3. So almost double the score here at 12,000 versus 7,000. So definitely a big performance here. We have a quad-core processor versus the dual-core low-powered processor in the Tab 3. Now in conclusion, it's kind of hard to get excited about the 7-inch Tab 3 just because the specs are pretty low performance, is noticeably laggy as you saw throughout my review here, and there are similarly priced tablets or cheaper tablets which perform better like the Nexus 7. But a lot of people like the Samsung ecosystem, they like TouchWiz and the features it offers. A lot of people have TouchWiz phones like the GS4, GS3 Note series, etc. So if they want a similar device, or similar tablet, this is something to take a look at. Now market forces will probably drive the price lower on this, so you may get this for $179 or something like that, and I think that's a better value, but at $199, to me it's a little high, but I can certainly understand the appeal here. You do get a rear-facing camera, which you don't get with the Nexus 7, so for some people that's important, but such a low-quality camera, you're probably going to have a better camera on your smartphone anyway, but of course if you want to use this as your smartphone, well, that's your camera. We do have that rear-facing camera again for teleconferencing, which the Nexus 7 also has. So you do get some features here. You get that IR blaster for controlling your AV equipment, so that's a nice bonus. So you can basically buy this as your remote control if that's the sole purpose, but of course you do have to use it in landscape mode. I would prefer if it was at the top, particularly in this form factor. So it's nice to have this compact tablet, but it would be better if it had better specs. So that is my review of the Galaxy Tab 3 7-inch. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you again in the next video.